How's it going, everybody? It's Bill Monkey coming back at you once again, and today we're going to be discussing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Ultimate Collection, Black and White, Volume 5, by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Let's get into it. This volume contains Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issues 56 through 62 and concludes Volume 1 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mirage comic series. We start off here with issue 56, where the Foot Clan makes their move and they capture a turtle. Issue 57 sees new player in town, Karai, make the Ninja Turtles an offer. The question is, can they refuse? Issue 58 sees the Shredder Elite strike and Leonardo makes a vow. Issue 59 sees a plan set in motion. Issue 60, let the final battle commence. Issue 61 sees the war with the Foot Clan finally come to an end. And in issue 62, the final issue, the group reunites and life goes on. You know, I talked about in my review for Volume 4 how there was a lot of hype behind the City at War storyline, and I was really looking forward to going into it. But I just felt let down by that first volume because I felt like it was all, set up. There was, no doubt going to be paid off here. But as I finished this volume, I can't help but still feel like let down by the hype that was, the storyline, because it ended up being much about nothing. And I'll get into that here as the video continues. As far as, some positives about the volume, I will praise the art. The art is good. I misspoke in my last volume. I thought everything was done by Eastman and Laird, but I guess Jim Lawson did a lot of heavy lifting here on this volume and the previous volume. And just like the previous volume, the art goes from stellar to, sometimes a little but I don't know, time constraints or whatever, who knows what the story is with that. But overall, the Ninja Turtles delivers, great art usually. And that's one of the selling points, right? There's a lot of brutal kills in this volume as the Ninja Turtles and Karai take on the Shredder Elite. One in particular with a lamp that you have to see to believe. So if you're curious at all about this volume, go ahead and check that out and you'll see what I'm talking about. Pretty heinous. And I guess here at the end, there's a feeling of happily ever after, right? The group reunites from their various storylines. They come back together. They won the war. It's not really a spoiler to say the good guys win. If you expected them to lose, I don't know what you were thinking. It's like saying Batman's going to lose. He may lose the first encounter, but he always wins in the end. And that's just superhero stuff for you there. But the Turtles aren't without, their battle wounds. Donatello suffers an injury. And, life just goes on and the book just ends. Or does it? I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, as far as some negatives, it's still the same mopey Turtles that we had in Volume 4. A Leonardo that's conflicted, that's lost. He doesn't know what to do. He has no confidence. We still have Master Splinter on this spiritual journey with this Rat King guy in a storyline that either I just didn't get it or it went nowhere, right? Casey Jones, what is he doing? He's out there out west in Colorado, marrying a waitress, having, raising her kid that's from another man, but then she ends up, dying during childbirth randomly. So now he has this kid. At least he names the kid a funny name, and then he heads back to New York to live with his mother. And of course, April O'Neil, she's out west with her sister. She's trying to start over, away from the Turtles, a new career. But life's just not working out for her. Wouldn't you know it? She just happens to inherit a bunch of money because her dad dies randomly. And so she goes and buys an apartment complex in New York so she can manage the tenants there. And wouldn't you know it, it's the building that Casey Jones' mom owns. And now they're back together and they're raising this random kid. And I guess the point of that story arc is they had to grow apart to grow back together or something. But it was just, why? What were they thinking? I don't know. Just not very satisfactory. storyline for those two characters, and not a fan of it. So, for like the final volume of TMNT here, the Mirage issues, the original issues, the issues that started it all. I could see how Eastman and Laird, they had other priorities, managing the Turtle Empire, right, with the shows and the movies and the merchandise alone. How the comic books kind of maybe fell to the wayside, and there's a reason why these collections that I chose to read skip so many issues, because they let other creators come on and take the characters in different directions, different storylines. But I thought this finale, this two-part finale, City at War, 13 issues, the boys are back in town, Eastman and Laird. They're going to deliver, a stellar finale. And that's all that I ever heard that City at War was. And it just left me feeling hollow. Like, this is how it ends. It got me thinking about, like, why some characters have longevity, others don't. It seems like Return to New York was the climax, the culmination of TMNT when they finally took out the Shredder. Ever since then, they've just been, treading water. And they tried to introduce a new Shredder here. It didn't really work. Nobody cared. Or at least, I didn't care for the new Shredder. It was just a gimmick anyway to, trick the Shredder Elite. But, yeah, the Turtles just kind of fell off. And, well, I got some good news. I got some bad news for you. This is the end of TMNT Volume 1, the Mirage issues. But it's not the end of the story for these Turtles, because Jim Lawson, a guy who's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, he comes back for TMNT Volume 2, and he picks up right where these issues left off, only this time, the issues are going to be in full color. So it's the end of Volume 1, but it's not the end of these Turtles. Their story is going to continue in Volume 2, but that's also the bad news, right? Because it only lasts for 13 more issues. Can the next 13 issues of TMNT be better than these last 13 issues of City at War? I hope so. I'm going to continue to read and to find out. But with all that being said, TMNT Ultimate Collection, Black and White, Volume 5, the second half of City at War, I can't give it any more than a 3. It has some satisfactory moments, but overall, kind of a letdown. The art saves it, but these aren't the Turtles I was looking for. Until next time, I'll see you there.